Well, while you were peacefully asleep, a quiet American morning turned into a real storm. Ordinary people picked up their phones and saw the headlines. Donald Trump is dead. Death of the US president. Where is Donald Trump? The internet literally exploded. Millions of searches, millions of discussions. And the strangest thing, no one gave a clear answer. The White House was silent. The press service refused to comment. Television only delivered vague statements. And ordinary Americans began to panic. Where did it all start? The President of the United States suddenly disappeared from the public eye. He was absent at a cabinet meeting. For any other politician, this might not be sensational, but not for Donald Trump. This man always loved being in the spotlight, always made loud statements, always picked direct fights with the press. And suddenly, silence. No tweets, no video clips, no casual remarks to reporters, just disappearance.
And then, as if on cue, a wave of rumors swept through social media. TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, all platforms blew up with memes, speculations, and short videos where people claimed Trump is dead, they're hiding it. The most popular Google search became Trump dead. In second place, where is Donald Trump? The internet was literally breathing panic. And now, attention, strange details began to pile up. Journalists noticed that around the Pentagon, the main US military headquarters, pizza orders suddenly spiked. A small thing, it would seem. But the American press knows how to read these signals. When pizza is ordered en masse around the defense center, it means one thing. Officials and officers have gone underground, not leaving their bunkers, preparing for long emergency meetings. For the public, it became a symbol of impending chaos. Residents of Washington felt that something strange was happening right outside their windows. People began recording videos. There's tension in the city. Nobody explains anything. The rumors are true. Trump is gone. Some believed the president was sick. Others claimed he had been eliminated. Still others insisted this was all a show, hiding an elite plan. And at that exact moment, a politician stepped in whom few expected to hear. J.D. Vance, senator and one of Trump's closest allies, publicly declared that in an extreme case he was ready to temporarily assume the post of President of the United States. Be honest, doesn't it sound like preparation for a transfer of power? Which means the chaos that began with simple rumors had already become part of political reality. And now the main question arises, what really happened to Donald Trump? When rumors of Donald Trump's death or disappearance began to circulate in Washington, the reaction was instantaneous. And it wasn't only ordinary Americans who panicked on social media and searched for answers on Google. The entire world held its breath. After all, the disappearance of a US president is not just news, it's a potential global crisis. Business was the first to respond. On the New York Stock Exchange, the morning opened with a sharp drop. The Dow Jones Index fell by 2% in just an hour. Investors started pulling money out of American stocks, moving it into gold and cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, as if by magic, surged upward. Within a few hours, it had gained 10%. This was the classic reaction to uncertainty. When the White House is shrouded in fog, money runs to safe havens. But even more striking were the statements from politicians. J.D. Vance, that same senator from Ohio who had previously supported Trump, appeared live on Fox News. His words hit like a nerve shock. In case of extreme necessity, I am ready to temporarily assume the office of President of the United States. On the surface, he was just offering to help the country in a crisis. But millions of viewers heard something else, an acknowledgement that Trump was truly incapable of running the country. Those words became the catalyst for a new wave of panic. If Trump's closest allies were already entertaining the possibility of transferring power, it meant that behind the scenes, a struggle was underway. And immediately, conspiracy theories thundered through social media. Some insisted Trump was hiding in a bunker. Others claimed he had been arrested by intelligence services. Still others said it was all theater, meant to distract attention from government failures. America's allies could not stay on the sidelines. In London, the Prime Minister urgently convened a closed meeting. In Berlin and Paris, diplomats spoke of a state of emergency, although they avoided official statements. Moscow and Beijing reacted more coolly, but analysts quickly pointed out any weakening of Washington opened new opportunities for them to maneuver. And what about ordinary Americans? On the streets of Washington and New York, people were discussing only one thing. Where had Trump gone? TikTok filled with tens of thousands of clips, where school children, students, even retirees speculated. Some wept into their cameras. He is our leader, he couldn't just vanish. Others mocked. Trump is just staging another reality show, only this time on the global stage. And as if to confirm the chaos, strange scenes appeared in the very heart of the Capitol. At pizza shops around the Pentagon, the lines grew even longer. CNN reporters filmed military officers and government staff ordering dozens of boxes and loading them into official vehicles bound for the complex. The image looked like a metaphor for crisis. The government locked away in bunkers with stacks of pizza, while the nation waited in vain for explanations. But no answers came. The White House kept silent. The press service repeated, "The president is working as usual." Yet in reality, no one had seen either the president or his closest aides, which meant the fog over Washington was only thickening. To understand what was happening, one had to step away from the social media panic and look deeper. The disappearance of Donald Trump was not just an event of one day, it was the culmination of many processes that had been building inside the United States and far beyond its borders. First, the political backdrop. Trump was a controversial figure but an incredibly influential one. He had returned to the presidency as a symbol of the old America, weary of globalists and liberal experiments. His base consisted of millions from the heartland, workers, farmers, small business owners. For them, Trump wasn't just a leader, he was a symbol of resistance to the elite, and suddenly that symbol vanished. Second, in recent weeks, Trump himself had behaved unusually. He cancelled several public events and declined interviews that he once embraced. Journalists noted that he was appearing less often in public and more often isolating himself with a narrow circle of advisors. Many observers at the time wrote, "Something is wrong," but no one expected the disappearance to be so abrupt. Third, the international context. The United States was entangled in multiple crises at once. In the Middle East, escalation was underway. In Europe, the economy was faltering. In Asia, pressure from China was growing. For Trump, it was a trial by fire. How could America keep its footing when the world seemed to be collapsing on all fronts? His sudden disappearance at such a moment looked less like coincidence and more like a signal that the system had failed. There was also the internal explanation, the battle of elites. The White House had long been an arena for clashing factions. Some supported Trump and his push for isolationism. Others dreamed of returning to the good old globalist agenda. And so, the president's disappearance could have been most beneficial to that second camp. While the public obsessed over rumors of death, the insiders could quietly reshuffle the deck. Notice J.D. Vance's words about readiness to take over. That wasn't improvisation. To say something like that on live television, he had to be confident that within the elite, options for succession were already being discussed, which meant that even Trump's closest allies no longer believed in his swift return to normal duties. And another strange detail, press sources reported that in recent days, unusual activity had been recorded in the White House underground facilities. Columns of cars moving in and out, convoys of security, even unexplained outages in communication lines. It all looked less like a simple presidential retreat and more like a genuine state of emergency. This was why panic spread so quickly. Americans weren't just afraid of losing a leader, they sensed that with Trump, the very feeling of stability was collapsing. For an ordinary resident of New York or Texas, the president was not only a politician, but also a symbol that the country was under control. And when that symbol vanished, people felt that the rules of the game had been broken, the borders blurred, and the future uncertain. That was how panic turned into chaos. In any crisis, one thing matters above all: the government's response. If the state reacts quickly and clearly, public panic subsides. But in the story of Donald Trump, the opposite happened. The White House chose silence, and that decision turned out to be fatal. The press office kept repeating routine phrases. The president is working as usual. There is no cause for concern. But the facts said otherwise. Trump did not show up at the cabinet meeting. He did not step in front of journalists. He did not record a single video address. Even on Twitter, where he usually commented on everything first, there was nothing but silence. For Trump, such silence looked more suspicious than any rumor, and that's where the system broke down. Panic, which could have burned out in a day, only intensified. In New York, people started withdrawing cash en masse. Banks reported lines at ATMs, and financial analysts warned, this is only the beginning. In Washington, spontaneous rallies erupted, people with placards reading, "Where is our president?" and "Tell us the truth." The police behaved cautiously, but the tension grew by the hour. And then the malfunctions began. First, the White House website went offline. Then, for several hours, the tax service's online systems failed. On social media, this was instantly tied to talk of a digital coup. TikTok spread videos claiming, hackers took over, Trump was removed. No one verified the facts, but millions of likes did their work. Meanwhile, across the ocean, US allies also began to act. In Europe, questions of security guarantees were raised urgently. NATO convened a closed session. France and Germany demanded explanations, but Washington kept quiet, and that silence only deepened the impression that America had lost control. The most symbolic image became the so-called pizza signal. Journalists' cameras filmed staff carrying dozens of pizza boxes out of restaurants near the Pentagon, loading them into government vehicles and driving them into the secured complexes. The picture seemed almost comical, a nation debating the president's death while officials barricaded themselves in bunkers with stacks of pizza. But for citizens, it was no joke. It was proof that the government was preparing for a long siege. J.D. Vance appeared on air again. His speech sounded calmer, but all the more unsettling. America will overcome any challenge. We will not leave our citizens without leadership. Hearing those words, people realized the truth. Even Trump's closest allies were preparing for a temporary presidency, which meant hope for Trump's swift return was fading. And then panic gave way to chaos. In some states, people rushed to buy fuel. In others, they cleared out shelves of non-perishable goods. Social media filled with images of empty supermarkets and long lines at gas stations. For the first time in a long while, America felt it could be at the center of systemic collapse. And all of this because one man, the symbol of stability, vanished from view. And so, by the next morning, America woke up as a different country. News channels continued to remain silent or issued only sparse comments. The White House still did not present Trump alive in front of the cameras, and that became the biggest mistake. The lack of visual proof only reinforced the rumors. On the streets of Washington, crowds demanded the truth. Some chanted, "We want to see the president," while others shouted, "Trump is dead, you are lying to us." The police tightened security. Additional units were deployed to the Capitol. The city began to resemble a besieged fortress. The economy reacted ruthlessly. Markets dropped, gold prices soared, and the dollar lost credibility.